When you think of museums, what comes to mind? Is it a palace of art and culture, a place you were dragged to on a third grade trip, or just somewhere to bring the kids on a rainy day so they won't destroy the house? Like them or not, museums have a unique appeal and their numbers are growing each year. But where did museums come from and why are they still popular today? Firstly, what is a museum? Put simply, a museum is where a collection, be it of art, natural history, science, or another subject, is gathered in a location for the education of the public. The word museum comes from the Greek word museon, relating to the nine muses or goddesses of art and culture. The Greeks built some of the first museums inside temples to the muses, but museums could be anywhere the muses hung out, including natural settings like gardens and grottos. During the Renaissance, special cabinets of curiosities or studies in the houses of the nobility and clergy were also seen as museums for the resident and his guests. The owner would curate such rooms to admire the creations of the Greeks and Romans while learning from them. Museums would remain closed to the general public for many years, with certain royal museums, such as the Louvre in Paris, only being open to the public 3 times a week. Modern museums only started to emerge in the 17th century, when Elias Ashmole established the Ashmolean Museum in Oxford in 1682, one of the first to allow the public in all week. By the way, the Ashmolean Museum is still around today. You should check it out. The number of public museums expanded in the 18th and 19th centuries, as former royal collections were taken over by national governments after revolutions or the introduction of democracies. National museums were built to express the glory and superiority of the country, and often held collections of exemplary national and foreign art, the latter often looted from lesser peoples living in state-controlled colonies. One could even argue that museums created the form of art history by giving an order and chronology to disparate works. The Universal Survey Museum, a type of national museum that organized worldwide art by country and century, especially helped create a system for how art evolved over time. But the history of art history until today is a story for another time. Over in the United States, the first museum in the then new country was the Charleston Museum in South Carolina, established in 1773 and opened to the public in 1824. Other important American museums were opened during the 19th century, including the Metropolitan Museum in New York, the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C., and the Art Institute of Chicago. Today, there are more than 35,000 museums in the United States, easily surpassing the combined number of Starbucks and McDonald's locations. They cover a wide range of topics, from zoology to science and technology to art, and serve as both learning institutions and tourist attractions. In addition, many museums are nonprofit institutions with the express goal of educating their communities through classes, seminars, film screenings, and other initiatives. But museums are facing a wide array of challenges that impact both academia and the public sphere. For example, how should museums retain relevance in modern times? What is the best way for them to handle repatriating looted collections? And as the population grows more diverse, how should museums address both the current political climate and their new audiences? Museums are confronting these issues today and are engaging in many initiatives to increase inclusivity and diversity in their institutions. For example, the High Museum of Art in Atlanta, Georgia, is bringing in more diverse audiences through their increased number of exhibitions on African American, women, and gay artists. The Smithsonian is planning a new Latinx art and history gallery in the American History Museum to open in 2021, and many of its other museums, such as the National Air and Space Museum and the U.S. Botanical Gardens, have hired female directors and CEOs. These efforts towards diversity are still ongoing, but despite their challenges, museum staff work to focus above all on their visitors and how best to educate, enrich, and entertain them. This people-focused approach, combined with their immersive exhibits and efforts toward greater inclusivity, is why museums remain popular even today. So the next time you go to a museum, think about how much history is involved with them from ancient times until now. You might stop seeing them as boring storehouses of art and start realizing why they're still a vital part of modern society.